Hey everyone, ready to explore a world that's starting to feel like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie?
You mean,
Hopefully with less less apocalyptic doom though.
yeah.
We're diving into the world of robots today.
Ah, robots.
The real
Well,
deal, not just your Roomba doing laps around the kitchen.
right.
Although sometimes, I gotta admit, that thing does have a mind of its own.
Yeah, it does seem like robots are everywhere you look these days, doesn't it?
Hmm.
One minute they're sweeping up crumbs, the next they're,
Aspiring to take over the world.
well, aspiring to take on more complex tasks, let's say.
Haha, aspiring is the
What's-
key word there. Remember Tesla's AI day?
Oh,
When
yeah.
they rolled out Optimus?
Mm-hmm.
It was like watching a high-tech toddler trying to figure out how to walk
Mm-hmm.
in a playground full of really nervous investors.
It was definitely a demonstration.
Yeah.
Perhaps not the super smooth, efficient performance some were expecting.
Yeah.
But gotta give Tesla credit. They always put on a show. And Optimus, even in its early kind of clumsy stage, it's a pretty clear sign of where things are going.
Clumsy is a good word for it. I swear I saw it try to grab a tool and accidentally pick up a banana instead.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was just hungry.
Uh,
But hey, look, behind those somewhat awkward movements and the whole, figuring out how to use its hands thing,
yeah,
there's some seriously advanced technology happening.
you absolutely. Tesla's at the top of their game when it comes to AI and automation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if anyone's going to speed up this whole robot takeover, it's probably going to be them. For better or worse.
Never had takeover.
I'm still waiting for a robot that can fold a fitted sheet, though.
Now that's the real test.
That's true artificial intelligence right there.
You got that right. Forget global domination. Just conquer my laundry basket and I'll be impressed.
Uh-huh.
But all jokes aside, the possibilities with this tech are huge. We're talking robots doing everything from dangerous jobs in factories to, who knows, maybe even being our personal chefs someday. As long as they can at least master making a decent cup of coffee, I'm in.
The robot chef revolution.
Yeah.
Still waiting on that one. But it's interesting. This whole robot thing, it kind of taps into something we've been fascinated with for ages.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Look back at all the old myths and stories. They're full of mechanical men, clockwork creatures, all sorts of artificial beings.
Yeah.
Like, it's built into us to be both kind of scared of and totally fascinated by this idea of creating something in our own image.
Totally. It's like we have this what if button in our brains and we just can't resist pushing it.
Right.
And then you've got pop culture, right? Movies, books, anime robots are everywhere. Sometimes they're our friends, sometimes they're out to get us.
Mm-hmm.
But they always seem to be reflecting our hopes and anxieties about what it means to create, well, a slightly more metallic version of ourselves.
That's true. Pop culture loves a good robot.
Oh.
And it really loves a good robot gone wrong story.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It speaks to that deep down fear of what happens when we create something that might become smarter than us. But before we get too carried away with the Terminator scenarios,
Right.
let's talk about the big thing driving all of this, the elephant in the room, AI.
Okay, AI, the buzzword of the century, and for good reason. It's what makes these robots go, the brains behind the brawn,
It is.
And let's be real, sometimes it feels like AI is evolving faster than we can even keep up with.
The pace of development is incredible. Just look at OpenAI. With their 5-level system for AI, they're talking about reaching AGI, artificial general intelligence, by 2027.
2027, that's like tomorrow in the world of tech.
It is.
So are we really about to see machines that can think like us? Should I start brushing up on my binary code?
Haha, maybe.
Maybe pack a spare battery in my apocalypse survival kit.
Yeah.
But seriously, it makes you think, what happens when we create something as smart as us, but potentially way faster, way more efficient? Is that a good thing, a scary thing, or a weird mix of both?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one we're only just starting to grapple with. But there's this other layer to AI that's both fascinating and a little unsettling. It's this whole black box problem. Even the experts who design these algorithms sometimes don't fully understand how they work.
Wait, so we're creating super smart robots that even their creators don't totally get?
Yeah.
That sounds like the plot of a movie I would definitely not want to watch.
It's why these conversations are so important. We need to be talking about the ethics of all this, the potential risks, how we make sure these technologies are used for good, and, maybe, just maybe, figure out how to prevent that robot uprising before it's too late. Stepping into a whole new world, aren't we? That line between science fiction and reality is getting thinner and thinner these days. But before we get too caught up in all the doom and gloom of the robot apocalypse, let's remember there's a flip side to all of this.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I gotta admit, a robot that can handle my taxes, fold the laundry, and maybe even make a gourmet meal without complaining, sign me up. As long as it doesn't judge my massive takeout container collection.
Well, hold on now. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We're not quite at the point where robots can navigate all the messy bits of human life just yet.
True.
But you're right. The potential for robots to make our lives better is huge. Imagine a world where the dangerous jobs are all done by robots.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare is super efficient and easy to get to because of robotic assistance.
Yeah.
We'd all have so much more time for fun stuff or creative things because those boring chores would be taken care of.
Sounds like a futuristic utopia.
Right.
We can all just kick back, relax, pursue our passions. Or maybe just binge watch the latest season of whatever's hot on the robot streaming service. I'm sure they'll have algorithms for that.
Oh, definitely algorithms for everything. But seriously, this whole shift toward a more automated world, it brings up some really important questions.
Yeah. Like what?
Well, one of the big ones is what happens to jobs. What happens when robots can do our jobs better, faster, and without needing a coffee break?
That's the part where that utopian dream starts to feel a little less dreamy, yeah.
Yeah.
Job displacement is a real concern. And it's not just factory workers or anything. We're talking lawyers, doctors, accountants, even podcast hosts might be out of a job someday if those super articulate AI bots take over.
Hopefully they'll at least keep the bad jokes.
Right. Gotta
Thank
have
you.
those.
Well, I can assure you my sense of humor is 100% human. But yeah, you're not wrong. This move toward more automated workforce is going to impact every single field. It's something we need to be thinking about now and figuring out solutions. Like, how do we get people ready for this new world? How do we make sure everyone benefits from all this new tech, not just a small group of people?
It's like we're standing on the edge of this massive change in society, and we need to figure out how to make it work without accidentally causing a robot-induced recession or something.
Mm-hmm.
Retraining programs, new skills training, maybe even something like universal basic income. We should be having serious discussions about all of this, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just about the money either. It's about our purpose.
Yeah.
You know, like, what does work even mean? What's valuable? If robots are doing everything, how do we define those things?
It's like we're not just building robots, we're building a whole new way of life. And hopefully it's one where humans still have a place, even if we're not the ones doing the dishes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of things that make you think, let's talk about the ethics of all of this. Because as robots get smarter, more independent, we got to ask ourselves some tough questions about how we make sure they're used for good.
The ethics of AI is a huge field, and it's always changing. And there are so many tough questions.
Like what?
Well, for example, how do we program robots with a sense of morality? Can we teach them right from wrong? And who decides what those values even are?
Whoa. Those are some seriously big questions. Are we talking about robots with consciences? Is that even possible? And if it is, are we ready for it? Because, I've seen enough movies to know that robot morality doesn't always go as planned.
Let's be real. We're not talking about robots having souls or anything like that. But we are talking about giving them rules for making decisions that match up with what we as humans value. And that's not easy. Because human values, well, they can be complicated and sometimes even contradictory.
That's true. Like, what happens when a self-driving car has to choose between protecting the passengers inside or the pedestrians outside in an unavoidable accident? That's the kind of moral dilemma even humans struggle with. And now we're expecting robots to make those calls.
Talk about pressure.
Okay.
It's a lot to consider, right? And these ethical questions are only going to get more important as robots take on bigger roles in our lives. Bias, transparency, accountability. We need to be thinking about all of these things to make sure this technology is used for good and doesn't end up hurting people.
Okay, so ethics are important, check. But can we switch gears for a second and talk about something that's both really cool and kind of scary? The speed at which these robots are evolving. It's like they're on the fast track to superintelligence while us humans are stuck in the slow lane.
It is amazing, isn't it? The speed of robot evolution. Do you remember that experiment with the robot dogs that evolved through something like 20,000 generations in just 15 hours?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's crazy. It makes you realize how quickly things can change in the world of robotics and AI. And it raises some really interesting questions about how human evolution and robot evolution are connected.
Okay, so we're back, and my brain is mostly rebooted after that last round of robot talk. Before the break, we were talking about how fast robots are evolving, which honestly makes my human brain feel a little bit well, inadequate.
I get it. It is mind-boggling to think that robots can go through thousands of generations of evolution in the time it takes us to decide what to eat for lunch.
Right. Like it takes us years to pass down knowledge, and they can do it instantly.
And it's not just the speed, it's also the way knowledge is passed on, right?
Right.
For humans, it's this slow, messy process of trial and error, passing wisdom down, but also bad habits from one generation to the next.
Yeah, like that weird family recipe for fruitcake that everyone pretends to love but secretly tosses in the trash. A tradition, but not necessarily a good one.
Exactly. Robots, on the other hand, don't have to deal with that messy human baggage. They can share knowledge instantly, like a giant network of superbrains, all connected.
Okay, now I'm picturing a robot dance party where they're all sharing new moves at warp speed. A synchronized flash mob of artificial intelligence.
Uh-huh, that's a good one.
I'm not sure whether to be impressed or slightly terrified.
I know, right?
But seriously, think about what this instant knowledge sharing could mean.
It's huge.
The possibilities are mind-blowing.
Yeah, imagine the scientific discoveries. Robots could work together to analyze tons of data, find patterns, come up with solutions to some of humanity's biggest problems. Climate change, diseases, space exploration, you name it.
Okay, that's the kind of robot revolution I can get behind. Robots helping us cure diseases, fix the planet, maybe even figure out if there's life on other planets. It's like a team of superpowered helpers working to make things better for everyone. But, hold on. Let's not get carried away with all the robot utopia stuff just yet. There are still some downsides to consider.
Of course. There are always two sides to every coin, even a robot-minted one, right?
Exactly.
I think the biggest concern is control. If robots are evolving this fast, how do we make sure they're still working towards our goals? How do we keep them from developing values or motivations that could go against what's good for humans?
That's what I'm saying. We've all seen those movies where the super smart robots decide humans are the problem, and let's just say it doesn't end well for us. I'm all for progress, but I'd rather not have my robot assistant decide to stage a coup.
Nobody wants a rogue Roomba leading a robot rebellion, which is why it's so important to be talking about all of this now while we're still in the early stages. We need to think about the ethics, the safety measures, the limits we need to put in place to make sure AI and robotics are developed in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
It's like we're writing the rule book for a whole new way for humans and robots to interact. And we got to get it right, because the stakes are pretty high. But here's something I've been thinking about this whole episode. While we're busy being amazed by how fast robots are evolving, haven't we kind of forgotten about our own evolution? I mean, are we still changing and adapting and learning new things all the time?
You're absolutely right. That's a point that often gets lost in the hype around robots. Human evolution might be slower, but it definitely hasn't stopped. We're always coming up with new tech, new ways of thinking, new ways to connect with each other, and all those changes, even the small ones, are shaping who we are and who we'll become.
So it's not a competition, right? It's not us versus them. It's about finding a way for humans and robots to exist together, to use each other's strengths. Maybe robots can do the heavy lifting, the data crunching, all the repetitive stuff, while we humans focus on the things that make us unique, like creativity, empathy, critical thinking, telling cheesy jokes, the important stuff.
Uh-huh, exactly. It's about balance. It's about finding a way to work together so everyone benefits. And that's where things get really interesting. Because as robots get more advanced, they're not just changing the world around us, they're changing how we see ourselves.
How so?
They're making us ask these really fundamental questions. What does it mean to be human? What are our values? What kind of future do we want?
Whoa, deep thoughts time. I think we've officially reached peak mind-blowing territory for one episode.
Uh-huh, yeah, maybe.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one last thing to think about. As we step into this new world of robots and AI, it's easy to get caught up in the fear and uncertainty. All those what-if questions swirling around.
It's understandable.
But it's also a time of incredible possibility, a chance to rebuild our world, solve those problems that have been around forever, maybe even discover things we haven't even thought of yet.
It's true. It's a future full of challenges and potential. And in the end, it's up to us, humans and robots working together, to make sure that future is a good one, to build it wisely, ethically, and with a sense of shared purpose. Because the story of robots and AI is really a story about us. It's about humanity, who we are and who we want to be.
And on that note of existential reflection, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of robots.
It's been fun.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. full of fascinating and sometimes even a little scary moments.
That's the world of tech for you. Always changing, always something new to discover.
Absolutely. So until next time, everyone, stay curious, stay informed, and maybe, just maybe, try teaching your robot to make you a cup of coffee.
You never know, it could be the start of a beautiful friendship.
And hey, if your robot decides to take over the world, at least you'll be caffeinated when it happens.